Welcome to Courageous Conversation, the first episode, having a conversation with someone. Today I am here at the Breakfast Pig talking to my good friend Angela. I think this is going to be an exciting opportunity to have some courageous conversation. Angela, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I just want to start by asking you about the Breakfast Pig. What was the inspiration behind the Breakfast Pig?
Talking about the Breakfast Pig is one of my favorite things to discuss, so I'm
okay,
happy.
Awesome.
The inspiration behind the pig, I had always been a person who loved restaurants. I worked in restaurants for 15 years prior to opening this, and I tried other career paths. It just never felt like home. The restaurant always felt like home, so I felt like it was time that I stopped trying to make money for everyone else and gave it a go for myself. And I felt like the community really needed a place to call home and to be able to widen our culinary scene. And I think we have made a real splash and successfully done that. So we're celebrating 5 years and
wow.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. This is one of my favorite spots for breakfast.
Love
and my
to hear
wife,
that.
she comes here specifically because she likes the crepes, right? So what would you say, I mean, this is courageous conversation, so
Yeah.
we have to talk about the things that, what would you say that one of your biggest challenge getting started? Would you talk to us about that?
Sure. I came from a background where this was not my first business venture, and my first business venture actually tanked. I bought into a bar when I was 26 years old. It left really bad marks on my credit file. Actually, I don't even think I had a credit file. I think it just went up in flames.
Right.
Starting this was a huge risk that actually one of my brothers took on me and lent me some money. So that's not easy to do. It's just this whole thing of jumping in feet first, and I think it's a philosophy that I've taken into so many other things in my life. But yeah, I think you just got to go for it.
I'm glad that you say that, because that's what courageous conversation is about. It's about
yes.
taking that chance. It's about taking that risk, and we know that without no risk, there's no reward. So I'm happy that
couldn't agree more.
I'm happy to hear that from you, because this is what this is all about. But I wanna talk about the venture that you took on, that you wanted to do, partner with Econo. Would you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah, I would love to. I saw our community sort of falling into this space where I wasn't comfortable with it. I read about the burning of the Black Lives Matter signs at Algoma University. And for anyone who's not familiar with that, for me, it's not a true reflection of what Sault Ste. Marie is. It's not a reflection of who I am, and I would like to think that I represent a good portion of our city when I say that we don't stand for things like that. It made me sad. It makes me, upset to think about people such as yourself and all Black, Indigenous people of color, how they feel every day, maybe being unsafe or having to always remain cautious, where a white person like me, I don't feel that same burden, I don't think. And so when I saw that, I just thought to myself, the actions of one person cannot define our entire community. And I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I wanted to make sure that Black people in this community felt supported at least by me. And I wanted to give our community the chance to stand behind that. And so when we were able to meet with Econo, we came up with the awesome ideas to have the conversation.
Absolutely.
And I'm so thankful that you guys were courageous enough to want to put the Black Lives Matter on the back of the shirts. I think it's such an important message. It's come across, I think, a bit skewed from a lot of different areas, but I think that you're allowed to say that your life matters. And my life, I do agree that this whole all lives matter thing I'm not into. I do think that all lives matter, but I think my life as a white person has always mattered. And I think it's okay now for us to be lifting up our Black brothers and sisters and saying, your life does matter too, and that's okay. So coming together with Acano, sorry to ramble on, but and being able to organize the shirt sales and the dinner. We're doing an Afro-Caribbean dinner, which you're going to be a big part of. The jerk chicken guy is going to be a big part of it.
I'm excited to be a part of that.
Yeah. With all the money going toward a scholarship to send Black students to Algoma University and Sault College and ensure that they are involved in our community. I'm so excited to be a part of that.
Well, you know what? From an Acano perspective, I want to say, and from someone who is actively engaged in the Black community, I want to say thank you, a big thank you to you and the Breakfast Pig for the courage, for having the courage to step forward. Because I do a lot of community work, and I hear a lot of people talk, but I don't see a lot of people step forward and actively engage in a process. So for that, I really want to recognize the courage that it takes in order to do that. My question to you, Joe, I want to talk about, the pushbacks or the support that you might have gotten once, because I know that there was a news piece went out. I just want to talk to you about, or let you talk about, what are the positive impact that came out of it? And also, we still have to have the courage to talk about the challenges that came out of that.
So I would like to say that I think a lot of positive has come from it. We've seen my whole staff come forward. We had a conversation with my entire staff about what the Black Lives Matter shirts meant to me as a person, that they were allowed to wear them or allowed to decide that they didn't want to wear them. Everyone has chosen to purchase them, and we wear them here every day. And we haven't had one negative comment from a customer.
That's awesome.
Yes, and we have had lots of people ask about purchasing shirts from here. Day one, when I first got this shirt in, I went downtown to get my hair done, and someone called the restaurant to find out, hey, I saw the owner walking down the street with a Black Lives Matter shirt on. Can I buy those?
Great. That's
and
great.
That's the kind of thing that I really wanted to come forward, because I wanted you guys to know that there is that support here in this community. So that's been really great. I would say we've sold about 200 t-shirts.
Wow. Awesome.
We closed the sales on that just a couple days ago. The meals, I think we're up to, I'm going to say about 150.
Sweet.
And we're still selling. So if you want this guy's jerk chicken, you got to get on the breakfastpig.com and order.
Absolutely.
It's for this Friday, October 2nd. So if you get a chance, I would definitely, all proceeds are going to Acano. So that's been such a massive positive. I love being able to talk to staff about it and enlighten new people. I did need a little,
Yeah, you're gonna get some of those. Yes.
Bump.
Yeah, we have to talk about those, right? Because I'm a big believer in. It's important to have those conversations. One of my inspiration is the civil rights movement. And I always think about the amount of dialogue that went on between different parties to be able to pass some of the human rights laws that was passed in that period of time. It's one of my inspiration to be having this conversation. So I still want to talk about some of the challenge that you experienced. We're not here to point finger.
No.
But we want to talk about, these were the challenges that we were experiencing. So if you would just talk about maybe 1 or 2 points that came up.
We haven't met a ton of negativity, and I want to say that because I do think that this has been such a positive thing, and I want it to continue to be. But you will always get those people.
That's right.
You always get that guy. So I had posted about our dinner and the shirts, and someone came on, of course, under a fake alias made. This is the part that I dislike about social media. So a fake alias was made, and telling me that I support communists and that I should, realize that if Black Lives Matter movement comes to Sault Ste. Marie, that this person would hope that this restaurant was burnt to the ground first.
Wow.
and that they would never support a place that supports movements like this. And so I think for me, it was just really tough to hear that.
Yeah.
Knowing what pure intent I have come into
That's
this
right.
with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, people can talk about, you know, this person owns Black Lives Matter, this person
Yeah.
backs Black Lives
Yeah.
Matter. To me, a black person owns Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
So when you say that your life matters, you are allowed to say that,
That's it.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
So taking the Black Lives Matter movement as they have in the States, and I think a lot of the mud that's been thrown at it has been from like the Republican side of things, and you know there's a lot of political sides
Yeah.
at work. But I think when you break it down, it's about the people.
That's right. Movements always get hijacked too, right?
Yes.
So I mean, that's a chance that you're taking when you start a movement like that is having the impact and having the reach. There's always going to be.
But we had had this conversation about
absolutely.
what was I going to do if somebody came at us, and was I going to be comfortable?
That's right.
And my response was, anybody who does not support the equal rights of your group, my group, everybody in this world, they're not my people,
That's
and they
right.
don't have to eat here, and that's okay.
And that's the reason why, again, for me personally and from an Nakano perspective, we are so proud that not only that you had the courage to come forward, but even when those little push came, you know, you didn't run away. A lot of people don't step forward and help because they're afraid of those push. I got to speak of my own experience as an example. So for me, when people ask me, why Sault Ste. Marie, what do I like about Sault Ste. Marie? I always say my greatest experience of my life, I got them in Sault Ste. Marie. But my worst experiences of my life, I also got them in Sault Ste. Marie.
Yeah.
And my joy is, I can proudly say that the good experience definitely outweigh the bad experience. So,
And I think you're paving the way for people, for future generations, and for more diversification to come to the Soo and feel less of the bad and more of the good.
well, we from an Nakano perspective, we're already hearing some of that, and that gives me a lot of joy and a lot of pride, because the initiative that you're supporting for the bursary or scholarship, when we formed Nakano 10 years ago, coming next year would be 10 years, that was a part of our vision. We didn't envision that here would be the starting point of it.
Right.
So, and then when we hear of new members talk about Sault Ste. Marie, they're not necessarily talking about Sault Ste. Marie from the experience that I talk about it from, but that comes from the point that you're making, from the work that has already been established. So, where do we go from here? Do you have any questions for me as a Black active person within the community of Sault Ste.
Yeah,
Marie?
absolutely. I mean, I know it's kind of a broad question, but like, what can we do as a predominantly white community that is looking to diversify and welcome people? How do you think the best way we can do that?
Well, I think if anybody wants to know how, I want an example. You are an example. There are other places that are examples that, but at the end of the day, I think it's time, although this is a conversation, I think it's time that we stop talking, or as the saying said, let's put our money where our mouth is.
I agree.
Because we've done a lot of talking over the years.
Yeah.
And in the Black community, we're so far behind that the best example I heard somebody give you today, the reason why these Black Lives Matter and initiative like this that I'm trying to get started is important, or support like what you're doing is important to be more, is that when you're so far behind, it's like starting a race, right?
Yeah.
If you're doing a marathon, you need to kind of let some people wait. And I'm not falling into that stuff where, you know, take away people money and give to the other and stuff like that. But I'm trying to make the emphasis of the immediate value for people to, organization, individuals to step forward and support however you can. Now, for everyone, that is different. I was talking to a friend the other day after the Black Lives Matter march. He asked me the same question. He said, what can I do? He says, I'm not going to do any marching. I'm not doing any of those stuff. What can I do? He says, So I asked him, I said, what do you do right now? He says, I talk to my kids and stuff like that. And I said, believe it or not,
Go up front.
believe it or not, you're doing more than the school boards are doing. Because I mean, that's a part of where we actually have some challenges, right? Because the history is not been taught in schools. So a lot of people have been left out. So what can you do? Again, be actively engaged. You know, you can reach out to a group like Akano and other groups that are around, and just sometimes start with having it, like you reach out, have a conversation. I'm interested, you know, you might have an idea, and if you don't, we can sit down and discuss what that looks like from your position of where you're located.
Yeah, and I think having an open dialogue is huge, because even for me, like, it might seem like this was easy, but it's tough to come forward and say, hey, I think you need a hand, right?
Yes.
Because I don't, as a white person, you never want to be that offensive, like, did I say something wrong? Could I have approached this differently?
Yeah.
So I think coming forward with the purest intentions is the best way for somebody to approach it, right?
Absolutely.
And learning people's history and culture. God, you have a rich, like, there's so much rich history there. Our natives have such rich history, the indigenous, you know, community. So the more we can learn about one another and respect.
I think that's very important. Again, it's a reason behind the inspiration behind want to do the show, because what I find, if I look in the school curriculums, we're not located there.
Right.
Right? If you look in spaces of leadership, we're not located there. If you look in the space of media, right, we are selectively located, right?
Yes.
And then you spin that around. One of my biggest concern, because, you know, I have kids that grow up in this community. Yes. One of my biggest concern, and one of the things that people don't talk about, is the economic disparity, right? That is a massive problem that creates big impact, right? Absolutely. If you look at the employment and where the black community is located, you will see that we are highly located at the bottom in the spectrum. If you look at the economic numbers, right, of what a white person owns to a black family, there's a huge disparity there. I mean, I'm not making this stuff up, right? You can go and you can research this stuff. So again, this is a part of the inspiration of having this conversation, is how do we come together and have the courage and look at this and say, you know what, this is unacceptable. I'm happy to say and to see that the federal government just actually announced, I think I could be wrong, I think $90 million towards entrepreneurship for black communities, because they recognize the systematic racism that has, you know,
systemic racism is real, and I think
people out.
Yeah.
You know, and here's the thing, though. We like to tell ourselves in Canada that we are not as racist as our neighbors, right? But that's the reason why, for me, it is exciting to see. For example, I'm not sure if you've heard of the Black Initiative. That's something else that we should go at. The Black North Initiative that was started by Wes Hall, and I think it's the president for CIBC, Cisco, which is and a couple of other people that signed it, and they formed a pledge to say, corporate Canada, they have come to the conclusion and accepted that there is systematic racism built into corporate Canada.
Of course.
They created a pledge, and there's over 2,000 companies that have signed this pledge. So again, I'm not making this stuff up.
Yeah.
Take a look at it. And so for me, those type of movements are important, because, you know, some of the things that they're talking about, like start looking at the black pool to hire, you know, to specifically start look at those spaces. Absolutely. Because there's a missing component there. So I think that's important. So where do we go from here?
I think we just keep lifting one another up. I think we keep making partnerships and friendships and learning about one another and respecting, you know, each other's cultures. And I think there's only one way we can keep going, and that's up.
Absolutely. And for me, My education, I think, definitely has changed my life in
Yes.
a perception and the perspective of this stuff, like actually invested in education, in time to research. I mean, you can't get away from the black experience, right? Because I have heard people say, and I've seen comments that I don't see color. But most of the time, the person that say I don't see color is a white person.
Because we have the
Right.
advantage to not see
Not
color.
only you have the advantage, you have the choice. I
Yes.
don't have an option. I could not want to see color as much as I want to, but everything in the world manages me and look at me from. And you know, for me, one of the other reasons why I'm so passionate about having these conversations is this. My life experience have allowed me to develop the skills. My education, like doing research and stuff, have allowed me to develop the skill. My concern is my kids,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I don't want my
I
kids
think we
to have the
always
same.
want to. We always want to leave things better for
Better.
the next generation.
So that is really important for me to continue to do this work, to continue to have these conversations,
Yeah.
and hopefully through dialogue and conversation, we'll find ways to work together in order
And
to.
I think when you touch on not seeing color, I just want to say that I think that when you open your eyes to color, it's one of the most beautiful things. There's different color in cooking, in nature, in everything, and some of the most beautiful parts of nature, of food, of all these
Yeah.
things are the different colors. And I think the sooner we as like humanity can open our eyes and see that different race and different cultures are beautiful and
Yeah.
they add to the landscape, the better off we'll be.
Because I don't know which part of history we decide that difference was bad. I mean, how do you look at this beautiful melanin skin and have a problem?
I just keep trying to get a tan,
know.
and I can't even get a tan.
just
so
just because of that. Like, I mean, there's a level of insanity about
I know.
about that piece of it. But I mean, again, that's where we are in the world, right? So I'd like to wrap this up with
Yeah.
some final thoughts from you as a
Okay.
starting point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Final thoughts from me. I think my best thing that I can say right now is to say thank you to the community that has come forth to support the initiative for the Acano Scholarship. And I encourage anyone who is wanting to put ideas forward or looking to make race relations better, if you need help with anything, I am an ally. Acano is definitely a great place to get started. Show your support. Teach your kids to be nice people. Just teach them to be nice people, and they're the purest little forms of goodness, and let's just keep nurturing that. And I think the world's going to be a much better place the sooner that we can see color. We should see color.
I love that.
Yeah.
What do I want to add to that is, again, I keep going to one of the reasons I'm doing the show is similar to what you say. I believe that me, you, all of us have a responsibility to uplift one another, to
Yes.
support one another in whatever way we can. My life have taught me, coming from growing up on a coconut plantation, not even with a grade 12 education, moving to Canada and being able to live in this space, get educated,
Be a university graduate.
being a university
You
graduate.
can say it. That's
so much,
good.
so much people have supported me along that way,
Yeah.
and I've met and experienced so much beautiful experience. But at the same time, you can't get rid of the challenges. So, for me, is reach out,
Yeah.
talk to Acano.
Yeah.
You can find Acano on Facebook. Their email is acano@gmail.com. Reach out to Courageous Conversations. Dave at Courageous Conversation. My email is courageousconversation@gmail.com. Let's continue to have this conversation. And I challenge you to start having courageous conversations with your family, with your friends, with your community, in any way that you possibly can. It might just change your life.